agency is in full swing with plenty of big names available to beef up some rosters as we welcome back Jeremy Fowler and Bill Barnwell. Let's start with the Packers. Jeremy, you reported that Mecole Hardman was signing with Green Bay. It's not exactly the proven number one that Josh Jacobs said that young receiving core needs. So what are you hearing about them possibly adding some threats?
Yeah, the Packers do not appear hot on any of the free agents right now. They typically look draft, and in 3 of the last 4 drafts, they've picked a receiver on day 2. That's their MO, second or third round. They typically don't go in the first round for that position, but I certainly expect them to be potentially active there over the next 2 months to look for a young wide receiver. They also have to figure out Romeo Doubs' future. He's got 1 year left on his contract. He's proven at times to be sort of like a 1A for them, maybe not a true number 1, but a reliable option. Missed some time last year. Do they pay him, or he would have a trade market if they wanted to look into that?
Bill, who do you think that Green Bay should go after to help improve their passing attack?
I'll look to the draft, as Jeremy mentioned, of Matthew Golden, the University of Texas wide receiver, because of what he adds to their roster. I think they need some downfield speed, someone who's going to threaten teams vertically. He ran a 4.29 at the combine. Feels like a Texas receiver every year runs some crazy number at the combine. It was Golden this year with the 4.29. But he's not just a gadget guy. Hardman's more of a gadget guy. Golden can work at all 3 levels. I think he has some, ability to develop here. And as Jeremy mentioned, this is a Packers receiving core that's kind of in flux. Not only is Romeo Doubs a free agent after the year, but Christian Watson, who's out with the torn ACL right now, is as well. Normally, Watson's their speed guy. Maybe Golden steps in for Green Bay.
All right, so Stefon Diggs, he's the biggest name remaining among free agents. What are you hearing about his market so far?
Yeah, Christine, he should still be in New England right now. He came on a free agent visit, got there yesterday, met with some Patriots folks. The key is the physical that he will take today. Because of that torn ACL, he's coming back off that, missed, of course, half the season. When will he be back? How much can he participate in off-season workouts? But the Patriots have scoured the earth for receiver help. They were prepared to pay Chris Godwin big money had he gotten to them in free agency. He ended up re-signing with the Bucs. So they're looking at players like Diggs. Tyler Lockett, I know, is on their radar as well. They're also looking for some trade options for something that might work for them down the road.
Anything from Bill? Okay.
Yeah, I think about another receiver who's possibly available is Amari Cooper, the wide receiver who is a free agent. And I really wonder if there's a fit for him elsewhere, and maybe a place he was in years past. That's with the Dallas Cowboys, where Amari Cooper was a big physical receiver. They haven't had that guy on the outside in years past. They got rid of Cooper, of course. Michael Gallup was re-signed. He didn't really work out. Brandon Cooks they traded for. That didn't really work out. And so bringing Amari Cooper in, I think gives you that kind of that physical outside receiver they don't have, with CeeDee Lamb being the guy in the interior. I think teams know, hey, if we double CeeDee Lamb, they don't have a guy who can win one-on-one on the outside. Amari Cooper could be that guy for the Dallas Cowboys.
All right, so Amari Cooper, as you mentioned, he's looking for a new destination after his brief run ended in Buffalo. Who do you think Cooper should bring into his facility? Sorry, who should bring Cooper into their facility? Sorry.
Yeah, I would say Dallas, I think, is the team that makes sense. And I go back to that game I saw from him a couple years ago when he was playing on the Browns against the Houston Texans. He went for, and this is not enough, 265 yards in one game. One of the single most impressive performances we've seen from any receiver over the last few years. And we saw him win on the outside in that game, win downfield, win in multiple situations. And that's what I think the Cowboys need. CeeDee Lamb is a great route runner. He's just not that guy who's going to win physically, by out-muscling cornerbacks, winning in those contested catch situations. That's where I think Amari Cooper can be a difference maker. I know he wasn't that guy for the Bills last year. I think injuries were involved, but I can't think he can be that guy for the Cowboys.
All right, let's talk about another guy, Keenan Allen, another seasoned vet who's out there. He caught 70 passes in Chicago with 7 touchdowns. Where are you hearing that he could end up next?
So I continue to hear that Keenan Allen would prefer to be back on the West Coast. After playing a year in Chicago, he'd like to be out in California, somewhere in that area.
Sense, yeah.
We have a very common team for him with the Los Angeles Chargers. His ex-teammate Mike Williams hinted at maybe trying to recruit Keenan Allen, so we'll see what shakes out. The Chargers could still use a receiver. They typically want to go through the draft for that kind of option, though. Vegas Raiders could be an option for him as well. Even Dallas Cowboys are looking to fill a number 2 role if they can, but they really don't want to spend, because the problem with the accomplished wide receivers that are a little bit older, they need serious money to step on the field. So teams are sort of waiting that out. Keenan Allen still deserves some good coin there. So we'll see what ends up. The Raiders could be an option because they're looking at guys like Tyler Lockett. Yeah. Maybe they look at Keenan Allen as well.
Okay, so you just mentioned the Chargers. J.K. Dobbins looked explosive with the Chargers coming off of his torn Achilles the previous year. So, Bill, where do you think he makes the most sense?
Dude, I love a good swap here. Najee Harris goes from the Pittsburgh Steelers to the Los Angeles Chargers. Let's run it back with J.K. Dobbins joining the Pittsburgh Steelers. They need a back between the tackles now that Harris is in Los Angeles. And they have Jalen Warren, who I think is a great change of pace back, a great receiving back, a great pass blocker. But on early downs, they need a guy who can maybe get those 8 to 10 carries a game. And Dobbins can be that guy. He was 13th in rush yards over expectation last year, per the NFL's next-gen stats. So get him in kind of a situational role. I think given the injuries, you don't want him in that 20-carrier role, but 10, 12 carries a game. I think that's a perfect fit for him with Pittsburgh.
All right, a lot of guys that were looking to find landing spots in the NFL. We'll see what happens. Bill, Jeremy, thank you so much.
Thank you.
He fades his own pick, so when he gets it right, he's like, oh.
Shut up, Barry. Don't tell him my secrets.
I had this and had that. I was right, as we are still waiting in Pittsburgh for Aaron Rodgers to decide on what he's going to do. Jeremy Fowler with us, Bill Barnwell. Also, Jeremy, I want to start with you on this because, again, we are still waiting. What's the latest?
The latest is the Pittsburgh Steelers are prepared to wait. That's what I'm hearing, that they seem to be out of the two teams, the Steelers and the New York Giants, that have standing offers out to Aaron Rodgers, that they're willing to wait this out. He is their primary option right now. Of course, they have Russell Wilson. There doesn't seem to be a lot of momentum for those two to reunite at this point. But Wilson does see the Giants as a viable option. So something has to shake with Rodgers making a decision. This is his first foray into free agency in 20 years. So no one truly knows what to expect. But the question is, does he wait out the Vikings, who are going to sort of go with J.J. McCarthy right now as the QB1 this offseason? Maybe they revisit Rodgers in the summer, but would he wait that long? Who knows?
At some point, this has to end, and Aaron Rodgers has to sign somewhere. I promise. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are the best fit of those teams because of what they ask their quarterbacks to do. Protect the football, end the drive with a kick, either a field goal, an extra point, or a punt. They are 36-11 over the last 4 years when they win or tie the turnover battle in games, just 2-18-1 when they lose the turnover battle. One of the worst marks in football. Aaron Rodgers, the one thing he has done throughout his career consistently, protect the football. Best interception rate in the history of the National Football League. Even last year, last 10 games with the Jets, 18 touchdowns, just 4 picks. So in terms of the on-field fit, protecting the football, getting off the field, making smart decisions, I think Aaron Rodgers fits best with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Pre-draft, post-draft?
I still think pre-draft. Yeah, this will get wrapped up.
Yeah, pretty soon. The draft is coming up.
Hoping.
Staying in the AFC North, Jeremy, the Browns could use some stability at quarterback, as a lot of teams could. What are you hearing about them adding an arm?
Well, my understanding is the Browns are still in on Russell Wilson. That's hardly a slam dunk to happen, but they've talked to him. They met with him last week. Still in the mix there. Carson Wentz is considered a contingency plan here. He's going to wait for the dominoes to fall here, but there is some mutual interest on that front. Even dating back to the Combine, Browns had some interest there. And then, other than that, they're going to try to shake out Shedeur Sanders potentially. Cam Moore, top of the draft. Right. I do know that some Cleveland brass there has some love for some of those top quarterbacks. They see them as positive. So number 2 might be a little rich, but we'll see what they shake out. And meanwhile, Kirk Cousins, the problem there is I do believe that he would be a top option for Cleveland if he were available.
Right.
Atlanta right now, as of today's date, has not made him available. So Cleveland can't really check that off their list.
Yeah, you heard the visceral reaction from Matt when Carson Wentz's name was mentioned. I think Browns fans might have that same kind of reaction if that actually happens. Kirk Cousins is the best fit in terms of the on-field situation if he does come available from Atlanta. Kevin Stefanski knows him from Minnesota, really helped unlock him with a play-action heavy attack. We hope Kirk Cousins may be a little healthier in terms of the Achilles injury he came back from last season. And people forget, before that shoulder injury he suffered in Week 10 against the Saints, Kirk Cousins was playing really good football. He was 12th in the NFL in total QBR at that point, one spot ahead of Jared Goff, who was an MVP candidate at that point of the season. I know he's not 100%. I know the Falcons have said, yeah, we want to hold on to him. Money talks after a while. I don't think they want to pay him all the money he's guaranteed this year. I think at the end of the day, these two teams are going to find common ground. The Falcons are going to need some of the money. The Browns are going to need some of the money. Just makes more sense to have him playing somewhere in 2025.
Dangle some draft picks. I mean, you've got a valuable asset there for teams that might want a Kirk Cousins.
And the Browns have at least 10 picks.
There you go. Take advantage.
They don't have the money, though. That's the problem.
The money is the issue with a lot of them. Trey Hendrickson, speaking of money, his future in Cincinnati remains in limbo. We know they just spent a lot of money on receivers. What can you tell us about going on there?
Matt, I just checked in on this. I was told it's silent. No new traction on the contract front between Hendrickson and the Bengals, who did reconvene last week, tried to reignite talks, try to find a common ground on a new contract, because the Bengals are not eager to trade him. Even though there is trade interest, they have not shown a willingness to want to do it. They're probably not getting a first-round pick for Hendrickson at this stage because that new team has to pay him well over $30 million per year. So you saw Danielle Hunter last night got a deal done with the Houston Texans at 1 year, $35 million. I am told the Bengals have floated the possibility of a one-year deal extension for Hendrickson, something similar, but they would have to get the right money. Cincinnati has just not been in the ballpark yet. So this will continue to go on. And this is a player that I suspect could sit out games if this doesn't get resolved, if he's asked to play on his current salary.
Yeah, it's just tough to imagine this Bengals defense competing without Trey Hendrickson in the mix. Last year, what he did was maybe unprecedented in modern football. ESPN has a stat called sacks created, which measures not only the sacks you create for yourself with a one-on-one run, but also what you do for other players when you create sacks for other players in your lineup. Trey Hendrickson created 26 sacks last season for the Bengals. Nobody else in football created more than 14 and a half. Danielle Hunter, the player Jeremy just mentioned, was second with 14 and a half sacks created. He nearly doubled the rest of the NFL. That is how impressive and how essential he was for the Cincinnati Bengals last season. So it is going to be critical to get him back. I know they have so much on offense, but we saw last year, all those guys were great on offense and they still missed the postseason because the defense couldn't hold up, and that was with Trey Hendrickson. So imagine what it's going to be like without him if they trade him to another organization.
And to that end, they were losing games and they were scoring 30 points. In the NFL, and 30 or more points, that should get it done. Bill Fowler, great. Thank you.
Still ahead, the Lakers are rolling, the Bucks are reeling. Udonis Haslam on what's going right in LA and what's not in Milwaukee. Plus, Seth Greenberg says the new king of New York resides in Queens. Why Rick Pitino's Johnnies are planning to take the tournament by storm. And some big name receivers looking for new homes. Our experts on who they're talking to and the best fits for each.
You know, it's a horrible fit. Burger, fries, and washing it down with a milkshake.
It's not washing